The question of fascination and the initial aim of the project was to investigate as to why human beings enjoy destructive behavior like breaking, burning, fighting, hurting, punching, and so on, until I reached Auschwitz. On my visit to these concentration camps, the daytime was spent interviewing an official travel guide, and she told me about the sadistic and narcissistic personality disorders in the SS officers and Hitler himself. Whilst in the night, a Polish historian showed me the dark medieval torture devices still standing in the cathedrals of Krakow. After having witnessed this sight, I realized as to how unethical this project would be if I advocate to outperform one's dark and destructive side. Now, the aim of the project was changed to acknowledging the hidden potential in one's dark side, not to outperform, but domesticate that for one's stable psychological development. Within critical design practice, Beyond Franks' toolkit creates artificial evidences of an imaginary affair, while Noam Torrent demonstrates the objects of a lonely man. With this, I present to you the objects of introspection. What part of yourself do you see in them? What feelings do these objects evoke in you? The design research for these is based in ethnographic research as follows.
Well, basically, it's a sort of thing that I knew I was different at 15. I knew I was different, but I didn't know what I was. And I've arrived at this situation in my life where basically I'm transitioning. I'm sort of stuck. My Parkinson's takes over and I freeze. Some people just have to take advantage of having at me, abuse me or physically or verbally. And then some people throw things at me. But I'm very patient, but it's very difficult, at my age to keep pursuing it. First wish would be to be accepted as a woman in all roles in society. Second wish would be to have hair, my own hair. That's very plain. People think you're dark because basically they don't understand, they don't have any conception of what you are, so they don't understand. I used to live in a house with my family. I used to have stuff in the garage, I used to have stuff in the shed, I used to have stuff in the car, stuff at clubs, stuff in the loft, stuff. I get changed in it. And basically it's a huge pressure to keep your secrets. I don't have to keep any secrets now. I am who I am. I think I'm sexy. I believe I'm sexy. But you've got to believe in something, And sometimes I get men to come up and chat to me, so there's got to be some reason, So people can see, that you look like a woman. Because I feel I want to be a woman. I don't want to be a copy of a woman. I want to be a woman, so I want to be treated.
To expand upon my dark side, I'm not my dark side isn't limited to just BDSM. So I mentioned creative. I'm a musician, and my music is quite dark. My dark side probably manifests itself more, probably depression to some degree. I actually kind of grew up in the alternative scene and the goth scene, industrial punk, metal. That's where I grew up, and a lot of these people are in the kink scene. Because I got into this with my first girlfriend. We were 18, and I was a goth kid. She was a goth kid, and when you are, at that age, we were going to concerts, and you go and everybody's in collars and leashes and floggers, and it's just how concerts and clubs are. Everyone's just kind of dressed that kind of fetishy alternative way, and we started experimenting, and I never even thought about if it was taboo or not. It just seemed it seems fun. I thought it was interesting, and I pursued it, and I assumed everyone else was doing this stuff as well. And it wasn't actually till I got older and I kind of got more into the corporate world and less out of that alternative world that I realized how strange it is. This is more taboo than I actually thought it was.
My name is Paul Stone. I'm a writer and performer, and actor. But certainly this evening, I perform as Victoria Sponge.
Great.
A drag queen. As if it needs saying. At the moment, there's obviously a big trans debate about people being transsexual or transgender or transvestites even. For some reason, that's very, very threatening to people, to society as a whole. A lot of men, that can be a problem. If they see another man compromising their gender as they would see it, then possibly from their point of view, I don't know, it's almost like an attack on their own masculinity because of the fact you're playing with the gender stereotypes. It is taboo for a lot of people, and there is a certain darkness about it. As you can see from the makeup I've got on, I'm not attempting to look like a woman, but obviously I'm desperately trying not to be a man either. And I think your sort of occupying a very dark space in between two sexes. I mean, drag's been around, what I do has been around now for a very long time. I mean, back in Shakespeare's time, we had, obviously, the boys had to dress up as the girl characters because the women weren't allowed to act. The wig is the main thing for me. I think the wig is the big thing, is that once I put the wig on, like I say, I have the makeup on, the jewellery on, the dress on. When the wig goes on, that then means Victoria's in the room. Not just my work life, but my life generally is a lot happier, and I'm a lot more contented in myself. Whereas I think, you know, there are still people in this day and age that have to suppress who they are. And I sort of do wonder what that does to your mental health, having to pretend to be something you're not constantly. It's, you know, it must be very depressing.
I just recently discovered, actually yesterday, I came across a file, 1991 to 94, recorded dreams. And this was the very first dream I have in my possession, at least, recorded. Yeah? And really since that, which is 28 years ago, I wouldn't say I've recorded absolutely every dream that I've ever had, but I have recorded, I would say, most of them, because I have a very good connection to remembering my dreams. You know, I have a good ability to do that. And over the years, through a lot of work with them, I've evolved, I would say, a language of discussion or dialogue between my conscious and unconscious mind. This is a core dimension of Jung's thinking. He uses the metaphor of the dream a wee bit like being like a stage play. Yeah? And in a way, the play is the play of your whole life, of you. The play represents the self, yourself. You know? And every character, every actor is some dimension of you. You know? So it's interesting. Your dreams are very visual. I can see that from your German. There's a really core, almost like the core thing is the visual. So anyway, what Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, which I really agree with, he says the dividing line between good and evil, between light and dark, is not between you and me, or us and them, or America and the rest of the world, or whatever, you know. The dividing line between good and evil cuts through every human. So if we can somehow really, really, really settle into that truth, you know, and own that reality about ourselves, then the world will be, or would be, or could be a better place, you know, because people will not be needing all the time to project their dark out. Yeah, the concept of scapegoat would be redundant.
The elements of darkness taken from the ethnographic research were further developed to create objects of therapy, harm, and admiration.
Where do these ideas come to you?
Just my
in that semi-conscious place of near waking or near sleeping. Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. That's really cool. Yeah, it's like it because it's more 3D, isn't it? It's like most jewelry is quite, the rings are quite flat, but that one it's coming out, it's branching out. I think it's beautiful. Yeah, it's lovely. I can't wait to see it when it's all complete and shined.
Something detached from me, away from me, sort of thing. You know, sort of hair that doesn't belong to me, but could belong to me, sort of thing. You know, sort of it's an image, you know, sort of thing. As I'm looking around now, I see my hair and believe it to be my hair. It's quite feminine and quite surreal. It brings into focus my feelings, you know. It brings into focus who I am, a sexual woman.
There's always a side of me that's dark, dirty and disgusting.
But I love her, with all the other sides to myself.
Can you say the same about yourself?